The Blind Ambition with Jack Kelly is brought to you by HIMS. HIMS is changing healthcare by providing access to affordable and discreet sexual health treatments. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/blind. That's HIMS.com/blind for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/blind. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Rejection is never easy, especially when it comes to the H-1B visa lottery. Fortunately, our friends at MobSquad have a solution to help you stay in North America, eliminate U.S. work visa issues for good, and continue supporting your current company. MobSquad can secure work permits and help you and your family move to Canada in just 4 weeks. Get in touch with MobSquad to learn more at mobsquad.io/blindambition. That's mobsquad.io/blindambition.
Welcome to the Blind Ambition podcast. Today, our special guest is Amit. Can you share a little bit about your company, what you're doing, and give some color and context about your startup?
Yes, I'm Amit Bendov, co-founder and CEO of Gong.io. Gong is a 1,200 person company. We're an AI technology company that focuses on revenue teams. We help companies improve their sales efficiency with AI and make better decisions. So for example, a salesperson might be in a conversation with a customer over phone or video or in person, and then they go in and put a bunch of notes. 99% of that information never makes its way into the CRM because it requires work. People hate it. And even now, what does end up is like very subjective because it's very easy to misinterpret or mishear things, right? What Gong does instead, it taps into all the customer conversation across all channels, email, telephone, video, texting. It uses AI to understand what's being said and turns it into data that the company understands why they're winning deals, why they're losing customers, why some people are more successful than others, what do people think about their products. So it's pretty incredible. They get 100 times more information than traditional CRMs without anybody having to lift a finger. There's nothing to install. You turn it on and sit back and enjoy the show.
Where does that name come from?
Oh, come on. It's the sound of winning. Like, so if you've ever been to the sales floor, right? It has like a verb potential. So I gong this conversation, or make sure you gong this, right? And it's fun now, a lot more playful. I think everybody thinking that you need to be like, show up all buttoned up. But people don't buy from companies, they buy from people. Like, at least even a company, they want a little bit of a personality, right? We had a photographer, and one was kind of the regular like enterprise photo, and one was talking about, let's do one with the shades. And he says, okay, but don't use it on the website. I said, great, we'll use it on the website. So it gets people to talk.
We got to stand out sometimes, right? Like if you
You
look
got to
like
stand
everybody
out.
else.
So the biggest, when you're starting a company, people think sometimes, they want to create something that's agreeable. They're afraid that people are going to steal their ideas, right? The biggest risk is that nobody knows about you, that you get swallowed in the noise. So you need to stand out. And the way to stand out is to be not to do what everybody else or not what everybody agrees. Even if you look at our logo, right? Today is a little more agreeable, but when we started, we went to a trade show. We didn't even have a designer. We had the person doing GUI for us, the screens. And I told him, like, I want a logo that when people said like 30 yards from the sign, there are going to be lots of vendors out there. I want the logo to stand out. Like, I don't care if people hate it or people love it, but they will not be able to ignore it, right? And he created this thing that looks like comics, right? People said, what the hell is that? It does look like a logo. It says, great, they're talking about it. That's exactly what we want. Get people to talk about it, and something is polarizing, or 50%. Like it or not, that's the sweet spot of marketing, and it's free. You could do it, but you need to find your own angle and your own personality. You need to be genuine.
Yeah, because so many people, you see carbon copies. It's like everyone acts like, for instance, on Wall Street, everyone has Patagonia vest, and you look like just like everybody else. You don't stand out. But sometimes you need to stand out and get noticed and get the attention because otherwise you
In your
just blend
startup,
in, right?
you can't compete on marketing dollars. You need to stand out, right? And actually, it's free. Like you don't need to spend money. You could do like you have the means, you have the distribution. We live in a perfect time. All you need to do is like feel like bold and creative.
So what made you decide to build this company?
Prior to starting Gong, I was CEO of another company, and I experienced a quarter from hell. Right, we're growing pretty fast, but all of a sudden we had a quarter where nothing worked. Like sales started tanking. I had no idea what was going on. I started interviewing my people, right, asking what's going on, and everybody was pointing finger at something else. The sales were blaming the marketing blaming the salespeople, like they all were blaming the product, and I had no idea. And I looked into, in my desperation, I started to try to get data from our CRM system and realized that there's not much there, right? So, and everything kind of like seemed okay. We had like enough people. We should have been able to hit the numbers. It dawned on me that the key to success is not how many calls people are making or how many leads they have. Yeah, that's important, like to a degree, but it's the question they're asking. What is actually happening in those conversations? What do customers think about us? Is our messaging resonate? What do they like about our competition? These are the fundamental questions, and every business needs to understand. And the information doesn't exist anywhere. It dawned on me that the problem is that we rely on people to do all of that work. They hate it. There's not much in it for them. They do it for their bosses. And that was where you might remember AI just beat the world champion in chess.
Mhm.
And it was starting to diagnose cancer better than doctors. So I asked myself, how hard would it be for AI to capture customer information better than salespeople or customer support people? That was the premise for Gong. AI seemed like a stupid idea back then. But I imagine a world where people do not fill in forms ever again, and the company just knows everything, and the system does work on its own. It's an autonomous application, and that was it. That was the idea.
And it makes so much sense. Coming from the outside is because for the last 20 plus years, I ran a executive search firm, and it's sales. You're trying to sell the company to get their business. You're trying to sell the candidate to take the job and all that. And I just can speak to my own experience. Salespeople, whether you're a recruiter or whatever kind of salesperson, we suck at taking notes and keeping track of things and being organized because we just want to close that deal. We want to get it done. So I guess you're trying to then take that out of the equation and say, all right, we have to have a better way so we know what the heck is going on here. So as a serial entrepreneur, a lot of people are, interested in pursuing, especially people on Blind, say, hey, I would love to do this. What can you share with them to say, hey, I have an idea. I'm maybe a software engineer, or, and I have a bunch of other friends who are doing product managers and so forth, want to do something. Now, you've done this 4 times at least. What would you suggest to people? Would you say, you know what, don't bother, this is too much aggravation, too much headaches, or here's what you need to do to just get this started?
First, I want to be humble. I don't want to like advise.
Yeah, don't be humble. That's all right. You don't have
anyone,
to.
right? But my advice to people usually don't go and start a company because you want to be an entrepreneur. That's the wrong. I see people that they see that we work like all day. They're looking for ideas. Maybe this idea, maybe that idea, maybe that idea. And it's it's idea 4. That's a good one. Now I'm going to get going. Right. That's not a great way to start. Start a company when there's something like you have like a burning desire to fix a problem that you understand pretty well. At Gong, I experienced like firsthand, and I knew that like there are at least like a dozen people like me who would be interested in that, right? And I knew exactly what I'm trying to solve and how does it work. That's why it was successful. If I would start something in crypto, which I know nothing about, odds are it wouldn't be successful.
So one of the first steps is this: don't just sit around in a WeWork and tossing ideas around. Find a problem that and I think it's also like you were saying that about. if you don't know about crypto, maybe don't do a crypto project. Find something that you understand and know so you have like an insider advantage because you know how that sector works and that area works. And do you also look at it this way to say, how big can it get? Do you have to think in those terms or no?
You have to, you'd better think about it, right? Sometimes, let's say that I have a passion for example, it's not real, right? Like for goat cheese, right? And I love and I make my own goat cheese and I've got like a few goats in my backyard. I'm onto something. I think that the world is doing it wrong. There is like a better way to do it, right? And I have this like burning desire to go out and do like a way better goat cheese, right? That's actually a good start, right? Because now there's something, it's a product, you have conviction that you could do it like much better. The question is, how big of a market is that? If it's small, don't go and raise like $200 million, right? Because you're never going to make a return. Build it as a scrappy business. You get to like $10 million, you can make a nice living. You do what you love. That's totally fine. The problem starts when people think that they don't look at the market, they build something amazing, and they found actually the market like isn't as large as they have thought, right? Maybe the goat cheese is costing like $100, right? There is a market for that. Some people might buy that, but not a lot, right? And it costs more to manufacture it. So there are economics that just don't work. So just know what you're trying to build so you know how to properly set the expectation if you're taking money from investors.
And I take it that you would probably say, how oftentimes, especially when kids graduate from college and you hear that ceremony speech, go after your passion, follow your passion, do what you love. Is worst, right? That holds to entrepreneurism as well, right? It's probably the worst advice to tell somebody.
It's terrible advice. It sounds amazing. Be cerebral about it, right? So passion is great, but use both like left brain and right brain. Do an analysis, understand like, is there a market? Go and talk to people. Is anybody else like passionate about it? You need to think about it. Don't do what you love. I think someone said, do what the world needs and you're gifted at.
It's almost like a Venn diagram that there's a need, you have the skills, you have the ability for it.
Yes.
And then if also you have,
Yes.
and also if you have the passion too, but now you look to the market. And how did you look at, so let's say with Gong, how do you do that? Like, how do you go and look and say how big the market is? Is this a problem that needs to be solved? Do you just speak with other entrepreneurs?
First, we really struggled to raise money. And nobody wanted to invest in us. They didn't think that salespeople would love AI or that the AI would work. It was a struggle, even though I'm a seasoned entrepreneur, so it should have been a walk in the park, but it wasn't. Fortunately, we were able to raise. But the investors actually asked us to do like 50 validation interviews. So we reached to a bunch of rangers that are potential buyers and asked them, here's what we're looking to build. Tell us, what do you think? What concerns you might have? You ask the questions that you're kind of afraid to ask.
Mm-hmm.
What concerns would you have? What would make you not want to buy? Like, just ask the hard questions and they'll tell you, right? How excited are you? How much would you pay? All right. And the validation was pretty good. So we got pretty positive feedback. Now, this not being my first rodeo, I know that this is not enough. So if people would have said no, right, then we might have not started a company, right? Because if they give us like everybody, but people said, yeah, that kind of sounds interesting. It doesn't mean that they're going to buy. So that's like, okay, we go to the next phase.
Wait. If you hear sounds interesting, that's not a good tell, right? That's not a good sign.
Even if they're excited, oh yeah, it sounds amazing, right? Now let's say that they're very excited. Mm-hmm. It's encouraging. It's a positive signal. It's not a definitive signal, right? Because there's a difference between like saying that they like it and actually buying. I've seen it with like a previous company, people like, oh my God, this is amazing. And you go and ask for the order and they just don't buy.
Mm.
Right. So you need to ask the hard questions. When we launched the product, after a few months, we saw that people were actually using it and seemed pretty interested. We went and asked for an order. Like, hey, everybody, sorry, the beta is over, time to pay. And we asked for like $30,000 to $50,000, which we just made up. We didn't have a price list. We wanted to see if people are willing to pay, to see enough value that they're willing to pay. We assumed that most are going to say no. We wanted to know what's the gap, right? What else do we need to do to get to a yes? So we wanted an amount that is not trivial and not too high. If we asked for $1 million, nobody would buy. If we asked for $10, it wouldn't tell us anything because everybody's going to buy, right? Well, 11 out of 12 said yes. I said, oh, that's interesting. So that gave us some initial validation that actually people are willing to pay. That means that they see the value.
And when you were pitching to VCs and wealthy people, how
I was doing.
so you don't get that punch in the gut, but so you were having to deal with no, 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 no.
It is like, listen, if you are, especially like in early stages, VCs invest in the founders because they don't know the, idea. It's very hard to tell. Like I told, like most people like did not think that Gong will succeed. And they're very smart people. Like I know them, right?
So that's the worst. So smart people really know and say who aren't aboard, then you're like, oh,
they have lots of reason. I still some of those emails and lots of appreciation for the people, but you need to do it yourself, right? If the CEO can sell the dream, sell it to key hires, how they can sell the customers. So it's part of the deal. They're gauging you. Eventually, they invest in you, right? As a founder, sometimes the different like brilliance and stupidity is like very delicate.
So what was the thing that brought you over the edge that you realized it went, all right, I think this is going to happen? Was there something pivotal that took place?
No, so we had a rough start, but things got better and better over time. We didn't have like a pivot where we changed the direction of the company. As we started rolling out the product, we got some good response for customers, and that allowed us to hire like better people, and success brings more success. Everybody wants to join, and then like people were like chasing us to wanting to invest in the company. It's no longer like an issue. It's important. I will say it's a tough ride. People think it's just joy and glamour. There's some of that, but it's not. Have a great team with you, right? My team helps me a lot. Sometimes I'm having manic depression, right? One supporting the team, the next day they're supporting me, right? It's like, so have like a good team that is a good sounding board that can support you is like super important. And that's part of our success. I mean, I'm talking as a founder, but I have like a great co-founder, is like a great partner, and I have the executive team, and I consult with them both professionally, but also we speak about what's going on all the time.
This episode of The Blind Ambition with Jack Kelly is brought to you by BetterHelp. For anyone out there who needs to hear this, you are more than your job. Don't get us wrong. Passion for your work is great, but it's so important to find joy, fulfillment, and validation in your life as a whole, not just at work. And therapy can help you get there. We all go through ups and downs in our career. Maybe you're thinking about switching career paths, or you're feeling super burned out in your job. You might be struggling with the uncertainty of our current economy, or trying to manage the anxiety that can come up during the job interview process. Whatever it is, you're not alone, and therapy can help. Therapy gives you a place to talk through what's going on at work in a safe and supportive environment, figure out what goals you have for your life and career, and build the confidence to go out and make them happen. Otherwise, it's easy to stick at the same old, even if it's not making you happy. If you're interested in giving therapy a try, BetterHelp offers affordable online therapy on a flexible week-to-week schedule so you can fit it into your day. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get started, then BetterHelp will match you with a licensed therapist based on your needs, preferences, and goals. Connect with your therapist by text, phone, or video call. Start the process in minutes and switch therapists anytime. Elevate your work and your life with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/teamblind for 20% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/TEAMBLIND for 20% off your first month.
I'm glad you just talked about the team. So what do you look for in a candidate? What's the thing that when you speak to somebody, you're like, I think this is going to be the person, or you speak to someone, right away, no, this is not going to work.
So there are rare cases where you speak to someone 5 minutes and like this is like Mr. or Mrs. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But
now, what is that? Like, it's just a certain quality? Is it just a vibe? Is it just something?
It's a combination.
Yeah.
It's commission arts, right level of experience, and good personal connection. I mean, we love genuine people, like down to earth, straightforward, no posturing. I dread the term cultural fit, but you know that people you connect with really well, and you know that they're genuine and real and not posturing and trying to sell you something, right? That you could have like a real good relationship with. And then there are some roles where like experience matter more than others, right? I always put more weight on smarts, attitude, drive of people, but you wouldn't want me to be your dentist with just attitude, right? You need to know what you're doing. We'll look at the experience, personal traits, and fit with the team.
Are you involved with the process, or at this point in time, you're too far removed, or do you like interviewing people and being in the trenches?
I love interviewing. So I think up until we're like around 150 to 200, I interview every person. After that, I required like 2 C-levels to sign off, and everything like from a director level, like I interviewed, and I still interview some people. I look at it like 2 ways. First, people ask, how do you have the time? Like, it's not a good use of your time. I said, this is insane. A person is costing you like $200,000 a year, right? And if they're in sales or something, or even like an engineer, they're probably worth like $1 million. It's hard to think of a better ROI. 30 minutes of your time to reduce the risk of like losing $200,000 and the potential of getting like $1 million. Like, I mean, show me like 1.2 million per 30 minutes. Second, I actually learned a lot from interviews. So when I interview someone, first I'm trying to like gauge them and understand their true colors. But I also, you worked at that company, right? What was it like? Tell me what made you successful. If I know the company was not successful, like what went wrong over there? And people usually will tell you. Now, this is their own version. But over time, if you speak, I have this like database in my mind, right? Where you speak with like 5 people from the same company, you try to get the real picture, right? And I learned like what went well in some of the best companies, what do people like, and what went wrong. Most companies actually don't succeed, so you learn a lot from those. And I try not to repeat those mistakes. So actually, it's a good education.
Now, how do you also pass that down? So after you go to 100, 150 people, as you mentioned, maybe you'll interview this, C-suite level folks, but for your HR team and for recruiters who are getting people for you, how do you make sure you have that same consistency to have those interviews to make sure you're getting the right people?
It is a real challenge. Hopefully, by the time that people saw like what kind of rigor we use, and sometimes it could be like a dozen interviews to hire someone. It's not just about the rigor; it's also about candidate experience. I hate when a candidate reaches out and they don't hear from us. It could happen, right? But it's a terrible experience. So I want to make sure we start by thanking them for considering us, by making sure it's a two-way street and it's not just a grilling session, right? People follow your example. You need to stay in tune like throughout the time, because over time things might drift. And if you're not paying attention, you might find yourself a little too removed from what you had in mind when you started this thing.
That's cool. So like for the right now, like you're a unicorn.
I hate that term. Like,
Do
very unicorn. First, like, there are a lot of companies who are like over $1 billion valuation, and second, even like in 2021, I said we shouldn't drink our own Kool-Aid, and we were not measuring ourselves by the valuations. We measure by the number of happy customers, by our revenue, by real financials. That's the real thing. So the whole thing is just a distraction. The share price follows the real business. Like if you have something that's real.
you feel almost as like a jinx if you go around, oh, I'm a unicorn company, it's $1 billion plus? And you just rather focus on the clients and that's it, and customers, and not
the moment you think you've made it, like you're done. So just have feet on the ground and do the real thing. Just build like a good old business that gets real customers that are willing to pay what will ultimately make you profitable and generate cash. There's no new economy or a new thing.
I love it. This is a good way to kind of wrap it up, because so often, not only business, but in life too, right? People, or even if you're not an entrepreneur, you're working for a company, sometimes it gets to your head and you think you're way better than you are. And then you forget the details and you forget what got you there. And then all of a sudden
Right.
it falls apart. And so you have to have that combination of humility, like you were saying,
A little bit reality distortion is healthy,
yeah,
right? Because
right,
you're doing stuff that maybe you shouldn't be
right.
thinking that you should be able to do, but you need to be grounded as well.
Right. You can't completely say, "Oh, I'm going to do that," just like
It's
crazy
a
ideas.
delicate balance. It's a delicate balance.
Right. But you want to think really big, but at the same time, you want to be like, okay, how can I achieve this and be reasonable and logical about it? This is
100%.
great. It's so cool because this way you were able to walk through without any jargon, and I give you respect for that. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share with the audience all about Gong, and good luck with it. Sounds fantastic.
That's it for The Blind Ambition. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and a review. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.